Hi everyone, welcome to our 3LT series, the 3 Leadership Tips series for CIOs and senior IT leaders. I'm Lee Rennick, the Executive Director of the CIO Association of Canada. We're really building this series to support CIOs in their leadership journey. Well, I'm super excited today because we are joined today by Carolyn Levy, Group President and Chief Diversity Officer of Randstad Canada and Randstad Technologies. Hi, Carolyn. Great to see you today. Thanks so much for joining us. And just wanted to ask you to introduce yourself and your role at Randstad to our CIO Can membership.
I'm so pleased to be here today. And I'm Carolyn Levy. I am the Group President at Randstad Technologies and our Chief Diversity Officer as well for Canada. So really what that means is I lead the strategic team who works from a staffing perspective across Canada to support organizations in helping them find individuals to work on projects or to staff their permanent staff or come in from a contract perspective. But we also have a solutions division where we provide on-demand services and app development in the cloud, which is really exciting as well to kind of have both sides, staff and design projects. And then I became the Chief Diversity Officer actually in 2020 because I saw a fundamental need to change the way that businesses are approaching EDI&A, which is equity, diversity, inclusion, and accessibility. And it's been an incredible journey since. And again, we love coming into the conversation with CIO Canada. So I look forward to speaking with you today.
Really awesome. Thank you so much. And thanks so much for the work you're doing really to educate and support, diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. So we're here today to speak with you. We're very fortunate that Randstad Canada is supporting our Career Development Center. So thank you so much for that. We're really working collaboratively together to provide information and support to our members, and really helping them boost their careers. And I'm super excited to have you here. My head is spinning a little bit because there's so many questions I want to ask you, so let's get right into it. Let's talk about women and diversity in the workforce. Many of our members who are women reach out to me and they often ask about how they can build their personal brands. You work in this very large landscape of recruitment. What are some of the tips that you could provide?
Okay, so I know it's personal brand in itself obviously means you're talking about yourself, but this is where I think a lot of women take a little bit of a misstep. You have to really think about this. It starts with you. So take the time to write down the value that you add to the workforce. Don't focus on what you've done in the past or a list of things that you have accomplished. And listen, that's where we go too often is I've done this, this, and this, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, you need to start with your personal purpose. There is a rise of purpose coming across the world, let alone for individuals, but also for organizations. This change with Gen Z coming in and the factors that are important to them are so different than any other generation that's moved through. This piece around purpose is not something that's spiritual. It's something that's a business connection. And that's why you do what you do. So I reference Simon Sinek all the time in this because he's spoken this way for a long time. He has a book called Find Your Why. If you haven't read it, 100% go and read that. It will walk you through how to think about your purpose. Then the next step is another reading. And listen, I know we're all busy. Everyone's like, give me the Coles Notes. But these 2 books are well worth your energy. And honestly, hop on a flight like Calgary to Montreal, you can read one of the books. It's not hard to read. The second one is called The One Thing, and it's by Gary Keller. And what it will do is reinforce your purpose or help you maybe redefine it again, because it's difficult to get to a specific one, but then show you how to bring it to life daily so that you start to embed that. So that's important first. You know your purpose. Then you relate to your competencies. And then you need to think about how are those competencies important for the future? You need to speak to the potential you have when you're talking about your personal brand, not solely on your accomplishments. And why I'm saying this is a big factor for women specifically. Studies have told us that women are promoted based on their accomplishments and men are promoted based on their potential. So in your personal brand, you've got the opportunity to shift the narrative and speak about yourself by speaking to your potential and then weaving through some of the wicked accomplishments that you may have had. And so if you're sitting here listening to that and being like, okay, I think I know what I'm really good at, guaranteed it's not good enough, and you're going to go backwards, right? You'll think, oh, but I've done this and I've done this. So this is a pen to paper exercise. Write out 500 to 700 words, or type out or speak out, however you're comfortable with your communication. But you need to know your personal brand to the exact level that you know your address. So it needs to just roll off your tongue, and it needs to be consistent, because you never know when opportunity is going to knock for a career push for you. You may have career planning within your organization, but maybe you're at a networking event and someone might say, hey, why do you do what you do? Oh, what do you see in the future of this? That's an opportunity at the drop of a hat for you then to confidently start to speak about yourself. And maybe one caveat in this is where women struggle, is talking about self-promotion. They don't want to come across as arrogant or egotistical. It feels a little bit weird to say, hey, this is me and this is why I'm awesome. But, to think about it in a different way, as a mother, I have 2 little girls. Do I want them to be confident, to feel like they can do anything, move the world? We need to tell them then how to self-promote. And if you're in front of your daughter trying to motivate her, how would you do that? Right? And saying, this is what I'm able to do. So please make sure you take this time, because at the point of what you're saying, women are hidden in organizations right around the globe. You can't sit and wait to be noticed and assume that hard work is going to pay off. It doesn't. That's not how it works. The more you go up in an organization, the more it's about communication, the more it's about partnering with strategic stakeholders, and the more it's about politics, not in a negative way, in a positive way. So just take that time, master your brand, and don't stop until that brand that you wrote down gives you goosebumps. Challenge yourself there. Like, wow, I'm on paper. This looks amazing. When you're there, then memorize it and know it, believe it. And then you've got that opportunity to start to communicate it up.
Well, I really, really, really like that. And it's inspiring me right now. Like, my head is exploding right now because I'm just so inspired by what you're saying. And actually, yesterday I was having a call with Jennifer Hargraves from the Propeller Experience, and we were talking about the community of people you build around you as well. And I just see all of these things coming in. Once you have that and you understand what your potential is, then there's the community you can build around you to support that. So just phenomenal advice. Thank you so much. I will definitely use this and take this and start that process myself. So thank you for this.
Good.
So the next question I have is I want to talk about equity. So I just mentioned to you, I was having a car ride to an airport with a really amazing individual who, we were talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And he said to me, the one word now I just carry with me is the word equity. And, one definition of that word equity is freedom from bias or favoritism. And so, when we're talking to the CIOs that are listening to this, how can a company or a CIO really ensure, first of all, that they're free of bias when they're building their teams, but, and then what are some of the steps they could take with their HR recruitment company or team to ensure that they're really looking at the steps to build the diverse and equitable workforce?
Right. So there's the big question, and I do want to go back to starting with the CIO themselves. And this is where I really honestly see this fundamental shift that needs to happen. But if we go to what can a CIO do? One, you need to make it a personal commitment of your own. You can't move the dial the way that it needs to be moved in for equity's sake if you don't understand where you're at in your own journey, if you don't understand what unconscious biases you have, and if you don't recognize the actual conscious bias that you're carrying. You need to understand where you are as a person, whether you're from a marginalized community or not. Marginalized communities carry their own biases too, right? Like, everybody has got them. So start there. You need to take the time to learn, to unlearn, and to listen to marginalized communities and reflect and understand those conscious and unconscious biases that you carry, right? So if you are not a member of the marginalized community, this is how you start to become an ally and broaden your perspective and look at it as a fundamental need within the market, not as a project that, oh, I did that course, I'm done. Now there's nothing else, right? This is a continuous learning journey. So as a CIO, make that commitment, right? Then when we think, first in any company, before you even get to the TA strategy, right? Because people right away go to that. Okay, how do I attract more people? Okay, wait, what's going on in the company first, right? And let's talk about structure. Let's talk about accountability at the executive levels, at your C-suites. And if you're not big enough to have technically what a C-suite is, it's your executive team. Who are your key stakeholders in the business? Understand, and this is the perspective that I am bringing forward, okay? So understand that ED&I NA is incorrectly categorized as an HR initiative. Many organizations have it set up that way, and they simply ask for executive support to drive the agenda. So this really starts to behave as a project in an organization if it's tucked underneath one department looking for sponsorship, right? And so think about this. What happens in the case when there's financial pressure in the organization? When the HR team is spread too thin, priorities start to shift. Resources are reallocated. Where did the D&I strategy go?
Right.
Oh, but there's a fire burning here. I can't do that. That's long-term. What's short-term? You hear that. Every organization does it. Times get tough, projects get canceled. That's what happens. So I adamantly believe this is why we're not seeing ED&I initiatives accelerate. We talk all the time. We've been doing this for decades. Why is it not moving? It's still not moving. Oh, we have a bit of progress. Oh, we went backwards. The pandemic screwed everything up. It gave great opportunity, but then also gave a lot of self-reflection, right? That women are like, what do I really want to be doing? So this shift needs to happen so that it's embedded into the business. So what I mean is that the CEO and the executive team are universally responsible for making a personal and professional commitment to the ED&I objectives of the organization. And here's the key, with full accountability. So the best way that I think I can frame it for everyone is thinking about profit and loss reports. A lot of executives are very familiar. Either you are driving the loss side of that because maybe from the IT side, you're a cost center. But when you're looking at a P&L, there's generally 9 lines that we steer off of that you don't miss. You need your revenue, you need, maybe there's pieces of your revenue, your personnel costs, your OPEX, your profit, your EBITDA, like you're always looking and you don't miss, especially as a public company, that's how you're proving your stakeholder value. So the best way to frame this is to make your ED&I initiatives the 10th line.
Nice.
Right? So those key lines we steer off of. So now there's 10. The executive team is then expected to hit these key areas. That expansion to that 10th line, that's where the visibility and accountability are then moving to a critical success factor of the business, not a project within the business tucked in one department. Then if your executive team is operating at that level and understand it, that's where you get support from every business unit in the organization, from IT for systems and access and visibility, legal to help with policies, HR for learning and development and reporting, CSR, everyone understands that side, it's all a part of it anyway, marketing, right? Thinking your internal and external communications. This is how it shows up embedded, because every other fundamental business strategy, every department is a part of it, right? It's all the groups that are working together, not just HR with executive sponsorship. Do you see that transition of what I'm trying to talk about, Lee?
That is amazing. That is really, really, really what needs to happen. I mean, I'm just totally inspired and it's amazing. And that makes total sense. And I've always thought of it as, maybe, an initiative of one area of the organization, but to have that across the full organization, for that to be embraced, I truly believe that's how you will see a shift and change. And we talk a lot about, succession planning, and I mean, everything from pipeline of planning in to make sure, you have diverse teams coming in, that how you're doing your recruitment, how you're doing your messaging, how you're looking internally and externally. Yeah, it's very strong, and tying back into the word equity or equitable, it's definitely an equitable way to run an organization as well, right?
Well, and that's where, you know, if you don't have this piece, honestly, big, small, whatever you are,
Yeah,
the rest of these initiatives are not going to work at the pace that they need to. They
yeah,
won't, right? And when you then get that set up, that's where it's really clear from a communication standpoint. Be clear, be transparent about your commitment. As a sidebar, from an attraction standpoint, millennials, this is like, you know, born in 81 to 94,
yeah,
47% of them are considering where to go because they see diversity as a key factor for choosing an employer. Go
mhm,
one step deeper with data from the World Economic Forum. I think it's around 73% of the respondents said the most important thing to them to date is racial equality,
yeah,
right? And it's surprising sometimes when you say, wow, that's the single most important influencer for this generation. Well, yeah. So if you can't clearly or do not have a D&I plan, you need to get it, right? And then that's that other part, again, around embedding it in the business. All those other lines in the P&L, we measure when we're going there. Everybody knows there's measurement. When did the project end? When's it starting? How much do I have? How are the key indicators helping me get there? So you got to measure it. You know,
yeah,
it can't just be this nice to have, I'm doing it because I think that it's good. And
yeah,
then being committed to that learning journey. But when you get to the how do I do this with my TA team? I'm attracting people right now. Go start with inclusion, going to the executive, but then look in and understand who you are. You know, you can't start to say, I have this diverse strategy if you've got no idea what the complexion of your workforce is. What communities are in our workforce? Who are we?
yeah,
Know who you are, then start looking externally at the community that you serve, and that can be your guide for how to match. You know, who are we serving? If you don't have members of that community in your organization, you're not going to get the most meaningful connection or the best business return because they can't see themselves in you,
yeah,
right? So going there, making sure inclusion is there, then being public to be able to speak about that is
yeah.
how you are going to have the strongest, stickiest TA strategy and step up and be different from other organizations or competitors that you're fighting for your talent from.
That is very amazing. And even when you think of it in perspective with the tech, side of work, I mean, there's a lot of research around coding and coders and development of tech and how they, most coders, you don't have a diversity and inclusion in the communities that are building the what they're outputting. And so you're not getting actually somebody who codes or works from the same perspective, within the same community as somebody who might not be part of that team. So that's a big part of it in the development and design actually of apps and everything like that. And there's a lot of research around that. So yeah, this, really actually covered off my question 3. So I want to just pop into another question then around this, because I'm a big believer in equitable access to technology and education as well, and ensuring that people have access to software, hardware, the internet, all of that stuff. So what can a company or an organization do just around investment into making sure we have that pipeline, we have the leadership, we're working to make sure there's inclusive societies in technology. So, we're working with HackerGal, there's, Canada Learning Code, there's a lot of programs like Talent and the Propeller experience. But, what role should a CIO or an organization take in ensuring that we are making sure that everybody has access to technology and the ability to learn through technology?
Yeah, and this is so interesting. We're working on something called hashtag Youth Forward, and we see so many organizations also doing the same thing. And we recently sat down in Calgary in partnership with Calgary Economic Development and asked some community organizations to come in and talk to us and say, what do we need to do? Our industry is the largest access to talent across all industries, the biggest talent pool.
Yeah,
How do we do better? Tell us what we need to know, to the point of like kind of what you're asking. And they threw some stats at us that blew my mind. And I'll speak to my own experience in that. One of the reports or the statistics that they reported was through the pandemic, how many youth had access to like Wi-Fi or internet, not the computer itself, but just access to be able to get online. 14% of the
Yeah.
youth they surveyed in Alberta had
Right.
access.
Right.
So they don't have an option to be a part of the digital economy
That's
because they
right.
can't access it. So they were working on the front lines without any options.
Yeah.
This is fascinating to me, and a call to action to the government that it's now getting to the point where internet and access is part of a sustainable activity, that it needs to be just embedded how healthcare is.
It is.
We need the government to step up to
Yeah.
save for, prosperity in
Yeah.
it's as basic as, I need access to a doctor. Well, I need access to that platform.
Yeah.
So that's one angle, is that I think the business communities, we need to work, go talk to your government officials and representatives in your community, and open up that dialogue and say
Yeah.
this needs to change.
Yeah.
How do we do that? Because then, my goodness, are we ever going to reach a workforce that can't see the opportunity? They've never, go to the rural communities, got no idea where this is all evolved. So I think that's one angle. The next angle is towards educational institutions. And, we've learned quite a bit from some that are trying to lead the way in this. There's a big gap between what's being taught in university and what's actually available in the workforce. So it's like, get through university, you get your degree. Like, if I'm not a doctor, a lawyer, in a really strategic spot, like, what do I do? If I graduate with general studies, what am I doing? So there's a concept around work integration. So as a business, as a CIO, go talk to the institutions where you are working to find your talent. If it's local or whatever, go talk to them and think about work integration programs. How do you get the youth that are there and what they're interested in coming in and experiencing it in the workplace? So not just this internship where it's free and whatever, and companies look at it to say, oh, you're going to help offload the work, we don't have to pay for anything, maybe then you're going to come into our organization. That whole mentality has to switch.
No, that's not a good strategy.
Right? So it's every business thinking, how do I make work integration with educational institutions a part of what we're doing?
Yeah.
The other part that was interesting, because this is all learning through partnerships, to what you said, like, we can sponsor and support so many different ones, but what are we really doing in the end? Like, what's actually happening? And that's what we asked them and said, like, what's the disconnect? And what they told us is that when these nonprofit companies with this like single lens, for example, into a marginalized community reach out, they're rejected all the time, or they're not seen as credible. And what always happens is we do not have enough time, is the reason. Like, I really like what you're doing. We don't have enough time. We don't have enough time. We can't do it.
Yeah.
Hey, well, look at your turnover, look at your vacancy rate. They're asking for what they need to do differently to set up the community they represent to be ready for the work that you have available. So taking the time to teach them helps them change their agenda to say, okay, we think we're just doing coding, but it's like, okay, how do we get to this next digital transformation that's coming? How do we start that now and weave that in so that these wonderful community partners and nonprofits teach the right thing? They don't want to just sit there and do the wrong thing thinking they know, but the business community needs to make time for that. And I think lastly, it's instead of waiting for partners to do it, you have to create your own platform for development. Everybody needs to have training. This is the upskilling, reskilling revolution. So have that internship program, have the work integration, go to a specific community and say, okay, we're going to support the Indigenous community, bring you in and teach you the skills that you need to know, and then get you a position in our company or somewhere else. Like, take those initiatives and make sure that they happen, right? But that's an allocation of resources, and that's a beautiful spot for HR to be supporting that while the executive is running the ED&I agenda.
Yeah, no, I think that's true. And it's about listening and collaborating. I founded a very small project called the Codex Project, and it was working with the City of Toronto and a community in Toronto, bringing in, we were bringing in not just coding, but like playable and disruptive futurist art. So it was like taking pieces of hardware that no longer worked in a certain way, and learning how to make a light switch out of an iPod, and building a game. And it was very diverse programming, so that the youth in the program, first of all, we made sure that there was a 50-50 representation. So we wouldn't run the program unless there were, it was represented properly, but also just making sure that the youth in the program had some sort of feedback to us as the type of program they'd like to do. So some worked and created a game, some took old pieces of stuff and made it into something else, some learned how to build a computer, right? And it was bringing that there and bringing some really cool individuals teaching that, they learned all of these things and learned how to kind of be able to do it without, after we left, there was that capability to do it and then build into the program we were already working with. So it was really inspirational. And I think organizations and companies and CIOs can definitely reach out into their communities, listen, find out what's needed, and just bring that expertise. Going back to question 2 around personal brand, maybe that's something in your 500 to 700 word piece you put in for yourself. How can I work to help my community? Where does my personal brand fall within that? So,
and you know what's interesting? I talked about that actually just the other day. A woman that I mentor, she's working on this. And then I asked her in our discussion, like, tell me what you're proud of. And she's like, I'm a, Brazilian woman as an executive, and I love that I create this opportunity so other women and individuals, in the community can see they can do it. And I said, do you ever talk about that when you talk about yourself? And she said, well, why is that relevant? I said, well, my goodness, let me tell you why it's relevant. And hearing me repitch her back to her, she got goosebumps and said, whoa, I didn't even know I should do that. So this is what makes you, your pride to the community that you're there for. It's important. We need more people like that to stand up and be proud, right? Because it's not about fitting in. And that's a problem that needs to change. It's like, do you fit in our culture? None of that. Think culture add. How are you going to embrace every person and evolve the culture to be new because of a new perspective that's coming in, right? So yeah, I love that angle that people can bring in about themselves. And so many people, I think we were wired from the past that there is a line, leave life at home and work at work. I'm like, what human can literally do that? And now through the pandemic, nobody.
No way. Yeah, we're all in the same place.
I know. Well, and like the anxiety that I carry because I couldn't get my kids out in the door versus the anxiety because maybe I missed a financial number. I don't have a brain that can go compartmentalize. I'm sorry, but you are work and it's 5 o'clock and I'm done. I wish we had that control over our brains, right?
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining. I know we went a bit over, but thank you so much for your extra time today and doing this and really kicking off our Career Development Center. This is such a great conversation to have, and appreciate it, and just want to pick up on these conversations throughout the year so we can come back and maybe some of the topics we've talked about today, we can come back and refresh them and talk about some of the initiatives you might be doing at Randstad to support, companies and CIOs in their journey. So thank you so much. It's great having you.
And my pleasure. And I just wanted to add one thing because we are a partner with CIO Canada, and we really want to do what we can to support the membership in these journeys. And I know that some people listening to this will feel, oh my goodness, this feels like an ocean. I'm trying to boil an ocean. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know where to start. I want to do something, or I'm afraid to admit that maybe I'm not doing anything and I don't know what's going on. We're here to support that. We have a full diversity inclusion, like an EDI and A division that has expertise in this. Remember, we're staffing, right? So we're around people. Let us help you. If it's something small to start at, if you need a bigger understanding, if you just need a better perspective, we are here for that. Reach out to me. We can have a dialogue. I can get the team connected in. If you need to move forward with some of the steps, let us help you. You're not in this journey on your own, right? It's our responsibility. And then, like, how beautiful could that be that organizations attached to CIO Association start to become some of the most inclusive and diverse workplaces in the world? It's a completely different brand that supports a win-win-win, for everyone. So I just want everybody to know that we're here. We're open, of course, at any time to talk about talent strategies. And we'd love to continue on the journey and always, share where we are. And we're part of the strategy with the government on the 50-30 challenge. We were involved in building that just as something to start. And the first one is to get to parity. So this isn't from gender identification, but from men and women in the leadership and leadership pipeline. I'm so pleased to say at Randstad, the efforts that we've been in the last couple of years, every layer of our leadership is at parity or better. And there's one that needs one woman coming in, which we're in the recruit for now, to achieve that. So every layer has representation of women. Now we're working on our BIPOC strategy to ensure we have better representation of intersectional women and other marginalized communities. So we're not perfect either. So just here to support you holistically. And again, thanks, Lee, for asking us and asking me to be a part of the conversation.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate it.